Hi there. So in this video I'm going to be drawing a very small section of the Savoy cabbage. It's an extremely large and ambitious project, but I wanted to just do a quick video showing you a little bit of how I go about building up the sections. So we're just going to go and put in another little section up here. So let's just remove a little bit of graphite, okay. So in this blue toned area of the leaf, I like to start with chrome oxide green, which is number 278, Faber-Castell Polychromos. Nice sharp pencil. And when I'm looking at this, the highlights are here on the tops of these bumps on the right hand side. So my shadow is going to be laid down around here. So I'm going to start to pop in just a little bit of an edge and just start working from that edge. Small circular motions, building up my darkest shadow. So this cabbage has lots of lovely bumps. It's a very interesting texture to draw, extremely interesting. But I do like to treat every little bump as its own little drawing. And so yes, it's a very, very time consuming project, but very worth it. So what you're looking at here is already sort of 5 hours of work, which is pretty insane when you think about it. So let's just work up. I just feather out as I come towards those little white edges. Now I've got another bump that just sits inside here. So I'm going to make sure that I get that in as well. Just slowly building up these shadow areas. Okay, I'm going to go and add a little touch of pine green now, and this is just going to bring that blue tone in a little bit, nice and gently, just over the top of what I've already got down. Going to extend that a little bit, just there, and give it a bit of a curve, and then come into this shadow here on this bump. Small circular motions again. Okay. And then I've just got this other tiny little bit here where the bump sort of splits into a little bit. So I'm just going to pop a little bit in there. Okay. And I'm going to take a very, very tiny little brush that I can just soften this colour out with. This is actually Winsor & Newton Series 7 miniature sable number 1 that I'm doing this with. It's a lovely size. So I'm going to go into each area of the shadow and just soften off. There's no harsh edges, and because this is such a tiny brush with a little point, it keeps everything exactly where I want it. Okay, so you can see I'm already starting to build that form. So next colour I'm going to take is Chromium Green Opaque, and that's 174, and I'm just going to start building a little bit on this shadow. This brings a hint of that sort of natural green that the cabbage has got as well. It's a mix between this blue and green. It's just striking the right balance as to how much of each goes in. So all nice and gentle. Just building up these layers nice and slowly. Coming into that little bit there. That little tiny split. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of a blending stump now, so I can be even more precise. And again, just very gently soften this colour. Okie dokie. I'm going to go back to my chrome oxide green, and I'm just going to pop in the edge for these last two tiny little bumps that can be seen, and just bring a tiny little bit of colour off there. And we've got this little rounded one here. Again, I'm going to use the blending stump on that, so I'm not diffusing colour into the light area underneath. Okay, so you can see now we've already got the shape of those little bumps in the leaf starting to build. I'm going to take earth green now, which is 172. Coming back to the blue and just building up a little bit more colour, coming slightly closer to the light edge here, just working my way up very, very gently. So very light pressure on this pencil. Just very gently building up that colour. Over here as well. Now, because these little bits are so small, I don't need quite as much. There's quite as many layers or quite as many colours in there. Okay, I'm going to go back to my little blending stump. Just soften this out around that light edge. Okay, and again in here. So some areas of the cabbage are much more blue, and as we move down it's starting to lean more green down here, and then of course it gets fresher as we move inwards as well, so it'll be a totally different colour later on. I'm going to go back to my chrome oxide green. I'm going to build up a little bit of depth in these tiny little recesses here. To make sure they look like they're disappearing in. Just give it a little bit more contrast. Tiny, tiny pencil movements. Just building up nice and slowly. A little bit more depth in these. Yeah, just a tiny touch. Don't want to go mad at those on the top. Okay, and from that I can see that I need a touch more colour just in here. Let's separate that back bit. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of earth green yellowish now. and that's number 168. And we're just going to bring a hint of freshness, just mainly towards the top, still nice and gentle, just in certain places. It runs more blue over there, so I'm just going to keep it by the top towards the highlights, but around the bottom of the shape in general. Just there a little bit. And then I'm going to take May Green, which is number 170, and I'm just going to very gently, barely touching the page, bring that into these little highlights there. Just to stop them being completely white. Barely a whisper. Okay. And then as a last resort, I'm just going to bring a tiny, tiny touch of pine green back to those very bottom areas. Just a touch more blue. And then we'll be finished with this little section. Okay, so the key to creating these convincing lumps and bumps is all about lighting and really observing your subject, seeing exactly where the light and the shadows are and recreating that. And you can't go far wrong. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick little focus video. Maybe you'll do a cabbage of your own, who knows. If you do, then let me know. But take care, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.